Hey, welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and today, once again, I'm excited to announce again. I think we'll probably do this for the first couple of months here, but this year, 2025, going into it, we are doing a collaboration podcast with my dear friend Gabby Bach over at Beauty Launchpad. So this year we're going to do some collaborations, and it's both like a sidearm to Beauty Launchpad and what they're going to be producing or publishing in their magazine, and it's a bi-monthly magazine. So this month is a lot of stuff about wellness and just kicking off the year right for 2025. But also we're gonna do some offshoots. And about a month ago, I put out a call to all of our hair homies because I'd really love to do a series about public speaking. I think that if you're in this industry, you literally public speak every single day. Whether it's literally behind the chair, whether it's talking to your staff, whether it's talking to really anybody. We all do it in kind of a public format. Although me being in a suite now, it feels a little less public. However, it's still like a public format there. But yeah, so I wanted to put a shout out or a call out for public speaking. I promise you I will be very vulnerable because this is probably one of my biggest challenges in life. And I think that for many, I'll tell my story, but for many years it's kind of held me back for being able to take advantages of things that have come forward. But we'll get into that. Gab, what's up, bud?
Sup? I'm so excited about this episode. As I mentioned in some of our previous episodes, I have a broadcast journalism degree. So I went into what I did because I love public speaking. Like I love being on stage. I love like getting to present to people and do all of the things. So I'm super psyched about this episode. I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because literally I'm the exact opposite. I have tried to avoid it as much as I possibly can. And then I started a podcast, and it's pretty much like whenever you see me, it's pretty much all that I'm doing now. However, it's not, it's definitely, even to this day, it's not something that I look forward to, which is probably why I want to attack it a little bit this year.
Yeah. I almost love it. Like I wish, like my biggest thing is I like wish I had more opportunities to do it. Like that's one of my goals. And obviously I've only been with Beauty Launchpad for about like 2.5 years, but I want to start like moderating panels at trade shows and different events and doing stuff. Like I want to be up there asking all the questions and doing all the things because that's what my degree is in. That's what it's for. So
That's
I
all. That's awesome.
want to, yeah, be able to do more of that. So
I mean, to put it out there too. I mean, I'm interested in doing way more, but it's definitely been a journey to kind of get here. I'm excited about the opportunities, and we all got to do Mariah's event back in September. Beauty Gives Back. I always have to pause with that because I get it confused with the other one. What's the other one? Beauty Gives Back
You
and
change your lives.
Beauty Change.
it
I know.
changes lives. Yeah. And then wasn't it Beauty with a Purpose at one point too? Was that?
That was last year. I think that they changed their branding on it.
Yeah, they changed the branding of it too.
Yeah,
So
so Beauty
yeah,
Gives Back. So I have to pause and go like, okay, which one is this? Which one is
yeah.
this? But yeah, yeah, I'm excited to get into the conversation as well. Again, for me, I think I'm looking. I think I'm using our guest today because I'm just trying to get as much information about like how can I like ease this process as much as possible.
Yeah. All right. You want me to
Yeah,
introduce the
yeah, man,
guest?
go ahead.
Let's do it. All
Bring in our
right.
guest.
So I would say our guest is a friend of Beauty Launchpad for sure, for sure. He's been on two of our most recent covers, as of 2022. Um, and I know he's a friend of yours as well. He's just a wonderful, spectacular human being. I've watched him speak at smaller events, trade shows, all the things, and he just has such a wonderful personality and has so much insight to share about the industry. So I'm super psyched to be chatting with him. Please welcome the extraordinarily talented John Mosley.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. But hey, we here. We excited. Top of the year, we starting off with something great, a great conversation that's going to lead the industry in the right direction. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
John, thank you. And when I did my reach out, John was one of the first people to reach back out to me, and just by coincidence, he says that he's launching an ebook. So I think today's the official launch of the ebook. So so John's doing an ebook about. Well, John, you tell us.
Coming off winning NAHA in 2022, I think people would have thought I would have went in it for Barber of the Year. And I took a different approach, and it was education because I felt like I had, you know, did the groundwork. I did so many classes and I was tracking along and I said, you know what? I think I should enter as an educator because that's a more impactful category to me. You know, just me personally, I feel like when you could give knowledge, you know, you are doing more than just showing a technique and doing a haircut. And so when I entered it and I won, I said, you know what? Let me change this thing around. Let me educate people on how to do what I do. And then it became a curriculum that I wrote for training educators. And I was starting to reach out to bigger companies and saying, hey, the thing that happened was, you know, you took talented artists and made them educators. When you sit in a room sometime, the talent is there, but the education piece is not there. And so I said, you know what? That's a gap. Let me close that gap up. So I approached companies and said, hey, let me help you by training your artists to become educators and let the still with their original creativity, being authentically themselves, but delivering the message in a different way. Because I noticed that a lot of people will get up on stage and if you're doing color, you'll read the box of the color and basically memorize that, and that's what you deliver. Or if you're doing a technique, you so focus on the technique and what the company message wants to be delivered that you're not focusing on just being who you are, and that's what the people came to see. Yeah, they want to learn from you, but more importantly, they came to see you deliver how you deliver every day behind a chair. And that's from your personality, that's from your wardrobe, that's from everything. They just want to be in the company of you. And so yeah, that's what drove me to doing more training the trainers and putting out this book.
So, I mean, you brought up something that I actually have an opinion about. Not an opinion, but a view about is, for so many years, prior to, I mean, it's 10 years now or more, prior to like social media and the social media blast that happened where, a lot of influencers got attention, right? Is that the narrative of the industry was always controlled by the brands, so when we were looking at, and I can go back to Sam Villa or the Doves, whenever you went to like a brand event, it was always the same faces that were up there representing the brand, and that narrative was controlled so much by the brand. So I, I guess I guess I'm applauding you. Like, how do you find that like mid ground? Like the brand still has a message that has to get out there. And like I did some like brand training through like Wella and Redken, and it seemed like everything we were saying was so regimented. This is prior to 10 years ago, but everything was so regimented. It was almost it was shied upon almost to add any personality because your personality was supposed to be the brand. So I guess let's talk. I don't know if I have a question necessarily, but yeah, let's chat it out.
Yeah, with no matter what company, no matter what industry, there's always a message that the brand needs delivered. If it's a new product, if it's a relaunch of a product, if it's the culture, it's whatever that brand needs that to happen. And I think for myself, I just dove into whatever culture it was, found out what made me connect to the culture, and that's what I've always spoke from. It's not about trying to sell you on the culture. I'm just telling you what I like about the culture. I tell you what I like about the product. That's why you don't really see me moving around companies to company a lot because I like what I like. And if it's a fit, then we'll make it work. If it's not a fit, I'm not going to take the job just for a check. And I think for so long, that's what we've seen. We've seen people chasing the bag, chasing the bag, chasing the bag, but not really chasing the passion, the purpose that goes along with being an educator. And so for me, it's like I'll tell a company, okay, what would you like me to deliver? What is the message? And then I ask the company at that moment, like, okay, well, I understand it, but can I do it my way?
Mm.
And when a company says, yeah, John, you sure you got the space to do it your way? Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. And then I do it my way. And it always works because people will call me an influencer because of my presence. But at the end of the day, I wanted to always make sure I influenced in the right direction. So it wasn't about, you know, um, telling you I like a product or telling you something and I don't really like it. It was more or less like, let me use it. And then I think one of the biggest things, if you're not using whatever you use on yourself, then how can you influence people?
Right.
So I always approached it that way and made sure that companies knew you're going to get the best support from me. Just give me a little space because people like me and we're trying to make them fall in love with the company. So the way they're going to fall in love with the company like me is I got to be able to deliver it to them from me.
Yeah. I think that's super important. Like I think about it from a consumer perspective, and there is that push for authenticity, right? Like I feel like you can tell right away if someone's just selling something because they want the check versus because they actually care about what it is that they're using in the services that they're trying to sell you on. And I really, really love that. But to sort of pivot, I think just even considering like public speaking from a hairstylist perspective, like I have a broadcast journalism degree, like as I've mentioned, and so I was trained in public speaking, knowing how to do that. Like that's my whole background. But as a hairstylist, you know, your focus is coloring, styling hair, but there is also at the same time that push that if you want to be successful in the industry, you have to have a social media presence, you have to put yourself out there, and that requires that ability to public speak that may not be innate for a lot of hairstylists because they're more on the technique base, maybe more artist based than they are like making themselves, you know, a figure. And so I think that's something that, you know, almost is a process in and of itself. So where do you, I mean, like, I guess just like, where do you even begin, like starting to refine those skills and get to a place where you can start to feel comfortable doing those sorts of things?
I think the first step is being comfortable with your information.
Mm.
The more comfortable you are with the information that you are providing, the more confidence comes out of you on stage because it's like, I know this, you know, and that's all in the preparation stage of what you're doing. Preparation doesn't start the night before. Preparation starts before you even get the job. Like, that's when preparation starts. And so I think that's the first step is preparation. And then the second step would have to be learning your habits, right? So many of us got bad habits when we're on camera or when we're on stage and we don't know it. And so other people see it, but you don't ever see it because why? It's so natural to you. And one of my habits was I would always, it's going to sound weird, but I'm going to just say it. I would always crotch grab on stage. And part of it was because I was so comfortable on stage that it was like I was just talking to my friends. And so I had to see myself on camera and somebody pointed it out to me. So I had to change that behavior. So I had to find a different way to move with my hands or do things. So that's what started me moving more with my hands and being more animated on stage and telling funny stories and things like that, because I had to break that habit. So I think that's step two is breaking the habits that you don't know you have and starting new habits as a public speaker. And then the next habit that you, or the next one
Hold on,
is,
I'm going to hold you there, John, for a sec. I heard a technique that I've heard being used is if you videotape your presentation, like listen to it once without watching it and just listening to it, like hearing like how are you presenting the words, and then the
Mhm.
second time you watch it without sound and see how you're presenting it with your body, and that's you kind of blew you open that up for me because I was like, oh well, that kind of thing makes sense because again, if you were listening, if you were watching it and you just listening to the words, you may like miss out on what those body habits are because again, like you said, is natural. But you take that sound off now, it almost opens up a different space in your brain to observe.
Yeah, think about it, verbal and nonverbal. Nonverbal is all body language. Verbal is what comes out of your mouth. So you have to figure out what are you presenting verbally and nonverbally. And so I think that's a big key. And then the other one is, you know, taking time to think about your answers before you speak. You know, slow your pace down. I think for us as educators, we get on stage and sometimes we only got an hour in a classroom. So you're so excited to deliver everything. And then you're rushing, and your verbiage is off a lot because you're just trying to spit this information out. So I think it's like taking that time on stage and finding your rhythm, finding your pace, your flow. And the way you find your pace and flow is by the first two steps. knowing and owning your material, knowing your verbal and nonverbal skill sets, and then having the pace to just have a conversation. When I always sat in the seat of, why didn't I like college? Right. And that's the question as an educator, you got to ask yourself, why didn't you like college? And it was probably particularly because of the way the educator delivered information. Right. So it was no visual. It was just this teacher, like, the Clear Eye commercial for dry, clear eyes. You didn't like that. So
Right.
that's why as hairdressers, we're so creative. So we gotta do more. We gotta show more. So it's having that, but then more importantly, um, repeating your questions. That gives you time to think. So if you were in the room, or if Gabby was in the room and Gabby's in the back of the room asking me a question, or Gabby's right in the front of the room asking me a question, I just can't talk to Gabby. I just can't get Gabby's question and then say, okay, well, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
No, I have to sit back and say, well, that's a great question, Gabby. Thank you for asking that question. So for everyone in the room that didn't hear this question, Gabby asks blah, 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 and then give my answer. So what I did right there, I killed two birds with one stone. I gave myself time to think and process the question, but I also satisfied everybody else in the room by allowing them to hear the question. And then I gave the answer.
Mm.
And then the next step is understanding, if you don't know the answer, don't give one. Be honest and just be like, you know what? I don't have that information, but if you don't mind to pull out your phone right now, send me that question again on Instagram, and I'll guarantee you I could get you the answer. So what did you do? You made a connection, but also you showed them that you're human. I don't know it all, but I'm willing to give myself time to learn it, and I could give you the answer. That you gain so much respect when you do it that way.
Well, two things that stand out with that is that like when you address the audience, not you're engaging with the audience.
Mhm.
Like so when you ask about, you're engaging, not only with the person that asked, but with the entire audience. You're engaging with them because there's nothing more frustrating than sitting in an audience and going like, "What was the question?" or "What is he answering?" Because like, what good are answers without questions? Because you don't really know where it originated, and it might spark another question for you. So I think that's brilliant. I love the fact that it bought you time, bought you that time, to kind of get there. And then even talking about, send that to me in the DM. Once again, you've engaged with a person, and then when you reach back out, be like, oh, that person that was, that person sees me and recognizes me and recognizes that I'm important enough. Now, I will say this: if you do it, you gotta follow through.
Oh yeah, I followed through.
Oh, I know you do. I know you do, but I think that's really important to also be like, if you're going to open up that worm, make sure that you or that can of worms, make sure that you follow through. Gabby.
Yeah, that's super, super important. Um, I guess one of the other things that also interests me, and I was thinking about it, is not only, I think about when I do public speaking, like my job is the speaking, right? I'm asking the questions, I'm moderating, like that's sort of my role. But as a hairstylist, you're having to public speak while also doing a technique and placing foils, or if you're like, doing a lot of like at trade shows, you'll see like the live stages where you're showcasing a technique and then also doing the public speaking. So it's almost an added layer, which is super interesting. And so I'm curious how like blending the two together. So like great, you get comfortable with public speaking and then you have to do the technique, like getting comfortable walking and talking, you know what I'm saying? Because that's like is, almost two layers in and of itself.
Um, so that's a great question, Gabby. I see your journalism coming out right now.
Mhm.
So I think the biggest key is this. Because at shows we're entitled to make titles for our classes, but that's not necessarily what people want. Remember, people are there to see you, right? They want to see the technique, they want to see things. So at the top of my class, I spend in an hour class, I spend the first 10 minutes answering questions. And why do I do that? I answer those questions so when I get to the technique, I've already answered the information, so I don't have to give it out. I could go back and reference what I told you at the top of the class. And so I always ask the audience, hey, I know you're here for this class, and this is the title of the class, but I know it's more in there. What else do you want from me? And what that does is allow me the opportunity to give them the best class they ever went to by their words. Because not only did I deliver the technique side that I said I was going to do for that class, I went above and beyond because most of the questions can be answered through just conversation, not necessarily technique. And so it saves me a little wiggle room, a little time, but also allows me to get more information out because that's why they're there.
John, did you ever suffer from stage fright? Was there ever a time where you were in front of an audience where you didn't feel well, through insecurity, I would guess more than preparation. Was there a time where you had to deal with that?
I think early on in my career, yes, it was a little stage fright, but I played sports my whole life. And so by playing sports, you get over that real fast because it's more or less like, how do you approach it? How do you approach a game? How do you approach your matchup? And to me, my matchup is always me versus me. So long as I know I prepared, I own the information, I'm here to deliver, and I'm in a great mood, man, my three E's is entertain, educate, and execute. And I approach every class like that. If I entertain you and if I educated you, I executed the day. And that entertainment factor is the personality, the laughing, the jokes in the class, the storytelling, because you want people to remember. So like I said, I'm so comfortable up there now. It's just like I'm talking to a room of my friends and we're just having a good time. And, that's what it should be. And so that stage fright, once I figured that side of it, it went away. It went away because now it's like I'm in my element. I'm in my element and I can present and I can enjoy myself and just like I said, I'm passionate about sharing information. So that when you're comfortable like that, your stage fright goes away.
I hope to get there one day.
You will, man. I
I,
got a book for you.
I know you do. I know you do, friend. Hey, do you ever feel like and I always kid like you always know when John's in the room because he's the head taller than everybody else. But have you ever felt like, and I don't know if this is a fair question, so you're allowed to bash me if it's not a fair question, but have you ever felt like because of your like size, like you've had to play down the room, or vice versa, like if a smaller person is presenting, do you feel that they have to pick up the room?
Um, yes, yes, and part of that is understanding what's happening. I'm 6'6", 300 pounds, right? I'm a big guy. So when I get into a room, if the platform is raised, sometimes you probably will never see me get on that platform.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like a stage, like a legit
Mhm.
stage, like a
Yeah,
platform,
or if
like
I'm in like an education room and the platform is there, typically you won't see me do that, and you won't see me use a mic because I don't want to become even more overpowering in the room. So I want to be amongst everybody because at the end of the day, we're all one. We're all one, So I'm just the one delivering the message today. Somebody else could be delivering the message tomorrow. So instead of me getting up on stage and saying, look at me with this big presence, big personality, now I'm in this, standing on this big platform, I come down and I walk the room. I invite people up on stage. So those are my ways to make the rooms balance. It's not about me being up on this platform. Let me come out and hang out with you. Let me invite you up to this space so you can see, because also another thing about public speaking, um, everybody in that room, 90% of those people want to come on stage.
Mm.
So you invite them up there so that they could feel that experience for the first time. And then it allows the room to become normal. Now it's not this big room anymore. Now I'm not this 6 foot guy standing up there that is overpowering the room. Now it looks normal. And so I think those are some of the things that I focus on. And I always like to show up earlier so I could walk the room and get a feel for it to see if I need to not be up on that stage and not have a microphone. I check the acoustics when I'm walking in the room. I laugh and joke a lot and be loud so I could hear how it's bouncing. So it's a lot of mental games I play in order to be successful as a public speaker when I'm in these places. Because like I said, I don't want to I don't want to be this tall guy that's standing over somebody, educating and pointing down. I want to be able to point direct. And so I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, nice use of the word big there, John. Gabby.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's super important. I guess I can also give a little bit insight as a resident small person here. I'm only like 5'3", maybe 5'4" if I'm lucky. Um, and I have a theater background, so I'm used to like projecting. So I like the idea of like not using a microphone, being able to just reach people with your voice and the authenticity there. Um, and then, like you said, I love like the sort of the common theme, just to kind of reiterate it, is just like being a friend,
Mhm.
right? Like because the industry, like that's one of the things I love about it, and I feel like every conversation I have, no matter what the topic is it always sort of cycles back to community and this idea of togetherness and how that even applies with public speaking as well, because you're just sort of amongst friends, amongst equals, people who are just eager to learn and eager to grow their knowledge in the industry. And I think, like you said, it makes it a lot easier to speak to people when you do that. I guess then the question that I sort of have, and this is sort of bounces off different things, um, is that I find that, like I said, I'm very comfortable public speaking because I'm talking to a room of people. But then it's having those like more intimate conversations where maybe I'm just in like a group of like 4 or 5 people, like having to mingle and do mixers like that. That is also sort of like a public speaking type of thing that I hate because I just don't do well in groups, but I can speak to people. And I'm sort of curious how you feel about that. Like, do you find that you're better at public speaking than you are doing sort of like the mingling and mixers? Or do you think like, I guess your thoughts on that?
Nah, that's a great question, honestly. To me, I'm great at public speaking because it's like I use it like a comedy show. I deliver education a fun way. So like it's great that way. But then when it's time to mix and mingle, I'm a little shy. I'm kind of like, if we've been in a lot of the same rooms together, you'll find me ducked off in like my own little space, and I'm very welcoming though. I'm very welcoming, but sometimes I just kind of like, just sit back and play the background, and I just watch and observe, and at that point I'm learning. So to me it's different. If you get me in that situation where now you come up to me and it's one on one or it's three of us talking, we're gonna have a good time in our little space. And then we're gonna walk away and like, damn, that was a good ass conversation. But definitely I think when you turn it on, you're on stage and that's when you turn it on. And then when you're off stage, you just, you're not necessarily on, but you are on. So you're not really running to get into these conversations or running to like make an impact. Where on the stage you're trying to make an impact. So it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
I love that. John's got this great technique. What he does is he introduces you to people and then he walks away. He's done that to me a couple times. Be like, hey man, have you met Gabby? And then he'll go walk away. And then I'm like, well, I guess I'm stuck here with Gabby now.
Yeah.
You're
That's a
making
great
an
technique.
introduction.
Like a lot of people don't understand that it is something that I like to do because it's like, okay, I know the two individuals and I know that they can help each other or they can have an awesome conversation. So instead of me standing there and being a presence there, let me just introduce them, have a couple jokes, let's laugh real quick, and then I'll be like, oh, I'll be right back. And then I'm gone because now I just connected two people.
No, that's for sure. I love that. It's actually I've learned that it's become one of my love languages. Like I love to connect people. And the best part about it is that I don't need anything from it other than the introduction. Like there's nothing transactional on my end other than the introduction, which I absolutely love. I'm sure some of my friends absolutely hate it because I'm probably introducing them to too many people. However, that's just same kind of vibe. Like I think you guys should know each other. You know,
Mhm.
Sometimes, do you ever have trouble? I definitely have trouble like sending out those like introductory emails because I don't know what to say. Like, hey John, I want you to meet Gabby. Gabby, I want you to meet, but I never know what those words are. Like, I'm always like, what am I going to say here? And I sit there and like, think about it way too much there.
Yeah, once the subject line is answered, I don't really know what else to do with that email. But hey, I think y'all will have a great conversation together. Let me back out. Talk to
Yeah.
y'all later.
Totally. I try to get there, try to, but it is a weird paragraph. Like, trust me, it takes me, it's probably the longest paragraph I write ever because I just like, I don't know what to say here. Like, hey, I think you guys should know each other. Bye. You guys take it over. Gabby, what do you do? What do you do in those situations?
I feel like I'm the one that's being introduced more often than not. I feel like, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful to both of you is because you've both introduced me to so many wonderful people in the industry and have helped me make connections because I am so young and growing and meeting so many people and I'm still like very fresh to the industry that I feel like I'm very much on the receiving end of those emails of like, meet this person. And I'm like, great, let's chat it up, let's do the thing, let's connect. But I've done a few of those introductory emails where I'm like, I feel like, I mean, it's helpful coming at it from a magazine perspective because I'm like, have an objective of like, okay, this is something we're doing, something we're selling. So I could be like, let me talk about a beauty box or talk about this is the theme for one of our magazines. And so it's easier because I kind of have an objective for why I'm sort of crossing paths or introducing someone. And I think that helps having a purpose for why I'm doing it and kind of making clear and setting the grounds for that. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I think it is. I mean, it is interesting and sort of like I know my question before was a little bit awkward, but how like public speaking isn't just the being on the stage, right? Like it is the conversations that you have in those rooms, or even just the emails, like the way that you engage and hold yourself as a presence, and how that takes different forms. Um, and how you can be really, really good at one thing, but then maybe like a little bit more awkward and stumble at the other. And it's really just like, I
That's a good
think,
point too. I mean, even with
yeah,
those emails, Gab, sometimes I mean, again, I'll speak from my own experience. Sometimes I play down, sometimes I play up. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I play in like a power position, and sometimes I play in like a more submissive position. I don't know what it is or why I do that, but certainly if I think back, I mean, maybe that's just the human experience. Maybe I'm thinking way too much through my ego with it. But it is weird when we take these times to like again play up or play down.
yeah, I think it all depends on context too.
Course.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think self-love is a large part of it too. This is stupid, but I've started this journal at the beginning of the year that's like 52 weeks for self-love and like learning to love yourself. And I think the more confident that you are as a person and just accepting yourself as you are as a human being, like all the way through and knowing your insecurities and awkwardness. And like, you mentioned like earlier on in this conversation, your awkward habits of like when you're public speaking, some people sway, or it's the ums and the uhs and the stuttering, like the more comfortable that you get with all of those things and embracing them, the easier it is, I think, to just exist in any space at all whatsoever. Um, because you're happy and you're content with who you are and you're aware of those things, but you don't let them stop you or debilitate you.
I mean, John,
So
that's a good topic to bring up too. Is
yeah.
as you're public speaking, you said like, you like to talk like you're kicking it with your boys, but like with your boys, you will and all that. Does that present on stage, or how do you get? Where's that line where like you're really kicking it with the fellas, and then like you're on the stage, and there has to be some kind of presentation as well.
It's typically, that's a great question. It's typically when I'm in a room from a room full of barbers compared to a room full of cosmetologists.
Ooh, let's get into that.
So knowing your audience is a key part of public speaking, right? And so it's almost like you have to learn two different languages because of your audience. And sometimes it's more. I've been in rooms where I had to speak to estheticians and I'm like, ah, let me lean on my daughter and my sister a little bit because they're both estheticians. So let me bring them into the space and talk about what I've learned from them to bring the estheticians closer to me in the room. Then it's like when I'm speaking to cosmetologists, I have to speak Cosmo language with barbering techniques. So I'm really like diving into over direction, elevation, body position, and stuff like that. And then when I'm talking to barbers, it's like, hey, I'm just kicking it in the barbershop.
Right.
So even my body position changes to where I could show you what it looks like from us in the barbershop, but I'm gonna show you what it needs to look like for us properly.
Mm.
So
So
it's just,
basically meeting your audience where they are.
yeah, if you know your audience and understanding your audience, that's a big way to succeed in public speaking.
How
Mm.
does that work for trade shows? I guess that's one of the other things I was thinking about as well, because we, mentioned that a little bit, but I didn't get to fully ask, because I think about it in the trade shows, the Beauty Launchpad goes to, I'm like looking on the website and I'm seeing all the different class types. Is it like, the show comes to you and it's like, we want you to teach. And then they come to you with like, this is the topic that we want to teach. And then you have to kind of meld to that. Or do you sort of get to say like, well, this is something that I wanted? Like, how does all of that work? Because I think that plays into then your comfort with public speaking and
So I think well, not that I think, I know when shows come to you to ask you about, being a presenter at a show, especially in a classroom, it's your classroom. So they want your information, your titles, your this and that and that and this. Um, but I also think once again, going to preparation. Now you're preparing for our Orlando premiere show, which I know is majority cosmetologists. So my class title is determined by what I think will give a catchy line to make a Cosmo come to a barbering class. And then in a barber space, I'm giving more barbering information. So, well, I'll do something like maybe a cut and color and make barbers come to the class. So it's like reversing the topics and titles for each of your audience is a big thing. So it's always up to the artist to choose what class they want to deliver. But it's also, you don't want to be like, oh, let me show you how to make the perfect fade. How many classes is the perfect fade? Like, and what is a perfect fade? So it's like, no, how do you get tricky with it? So one of the class titles I have this year is turning one guess into four.
Mm.
I could have easily said, I could show you how to earn more revenue. But no, let me turn one guest into four. And what is that? That gives me an opportunity to talk about rebooking. That gives me to talk about upgraded services. That gives me a chance to talk about product sales. It opens up a bigger door and a bigger conversation compared to where now I don't just have to speak about barbering. I could speak to the room where cosmetologists are in there and barbers are in there. So my verbiage becomes more of a communal conversation classroom than just me teaching.
And do you think that you're, because like again, all you're talking about the room too, and I think about trade shows, like there's classes where you're in like an intimate classroom and you kind of have that small intimate space, but then there's moments where you're on stage and there's like live stages, or like I think of ABS, they have some like massive stages too, where you're just speaking to, a whole room of people and you can't always see the faces. And how does that sort of change how you go about what you're doing?
So a stage presentation in a big, excuse me, in a big room where everybody's walking the show floor, that's visuals by PowerPoint because you got to catch the eyes of people walking. It's short, impactful, microdosed information because you only got a short period of time, but you're really going fishing. You're putting bait on a pole to get them to come to the class. So and then you reference that like, hey, for more information like this, or if you want to see and learn more about this, I have a class in room 246 at 3 o'clock. So it's just getting that small piece of information out. That's really the punchlines and the hooks. And then you go into the classroom and expand off the punchlines and hooks and the visual information that you gave them. But the thing that I also do is I'll switch up the visual. So I have a short version and I have a long form version. So when you come to the class, that's the long form. That main stage, that's the short form. So it's like preparing that way as well, knowing who your audience is. The audience on a show, on a trade show floor, is not just the people sitting in the seats, it's everybody walking around. So how are you grabbing the attention of everybody walking around to then say, oh, he's giving out dope information? So a lot of that impactful information comes out in that short form. The storytelling.
Okay, John, I'm gonna hold you to this. Hold on. So, when you're on a trade show floor, there's different elements to it, right? There is a main stage, like Gabby brought up, right? But that's not where the majority of the educating is happening. The majority of the educating is happening in the pit, and everybody, and it's so much white noise in there. So I have two questions. One, at that time, do you use your size to get attention? Because at that point, the only game is attention. The only game on a floor is attention. So, do you or can you use your size to get attention there? And B, if this is a B, and B is how are you getting that attention when again everybody's music is louder than the next person's and everybody's information is in your face just as much as anybody else. What are your strategies there?
You're about to make me give out my secrets right here,
Of course I am. Yeah, that's what we're here,
huh?
John.
So when I'm on the show floor, one thing I will never will do, and I don't understand why companies or educators even try to do. You can't compete with the volume. If you're at a 3-day show, your voice is gone after day one because you're straining and straining and straining. And then think about this part. Then everybody go out to party. Then everybody's drinking in the lobby. So now what else? Your voice is gone. You're tired. Everything is over with, right? And so one of my key things is I just drop little gems where I'm like, oh, pay attention to this. And then I say what I'm about to do, and then I just get quiet and I do it. I also build off of the relationships of people that's watching. So when I'm on stage, a lot of familiar faces are always going to be around me. So I'm like, hey, good to see you. How you doing? And I interact with people from that platform instead of having to educate and yell and do all of that. If I'm on a stage like Andis, my job is to sell the tool. So I'm gonna give you the features and benefits of the tool, why I like it, and then I'm gonna show you me using the tool. I'm not about to fight volume in a hair show. And I think on that show floor, a lot of people don't want to be educated. They just want to be recognized, and they want to also see what you're doing. They're just passing through. So I'm not about to stand there and fight what I know they want. I'm gonna give them exactly what they want.
I love that.
I
Yeah.
love that too. That is such a strong kind of like working opposite of the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Such a strong thing, and I think you nailed something. I think you're right. People want to be seen, and that's why they're on the floor, for whatever that is. That is a brilliant piece right there. It's fun. I like to having the opportunity to be on many show floors now. Like I love to watch the masters work in that arena. Like I love to watch Sam Villa work the pit. Not the main stage. We've seen what Sam can do there, but he just got this different, and a lot of people do. I mean, John, you have it as well. But just the different way that the pit is used, and from an observer, I just kind of I absorb all that. And that's kind of what I'm paying attention to. Like, oh, how are they working this room? Because with public speaking, and I think you brought this up earlier, there's 1,000 different rooms, and they're all different. And certainly if you're going to be in the industry and certainly if you want to educate for a brand, at some point you're going to be on that pit. And like, it's all just different techniques and different things. That's awesome. That was a big aha for me. That's cool.
That's super helpful. Yeah, because I think about so many of our audience want to get into education. And again, like, I mean, you mentioned, Corey's, that there's so many different spaces for it. There's the classroom, there's being, on the floor at a trade show, there's doing a main stage, it's educating, in your own salon space. And how does that work? Like, there's so many different forums, and each one sort of changes the way that you behave and the way that you handle and go about the situation. And again, another thing too is we're talking about wellness, and I like the idea of not straining your voice, like taking care of your body. It's a temple, because if you want to be able to be successful and do what you're doing in the long term, you have to take care of your body. And so not being loud, because I remember my first ABS, which was my first ever trade show, was in 2023, so not that long ago, and I was just like so starry-eyed at how like there's loud music and there's these big booths and it's just this massive spectacle. And I mean, you don't want to have to fight that. And so knowing how to exist in that space, because I think it's something that's not always intuitive. I think it maybe feel like more second nature to want to fight the noise and the loudness and get people to come to you. And I think that's interesting to not do that. And I think that's super valuable information.
Hey, John, when you're on stage, when you're sharing the stage with somebody and you're trying, or certainly like the pit stage with somebody, and you're playing down, how do you, if they're playing up, how do you kind of like, here, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of thinking of Danny here in this situation, Amarim, like he gets on the stage and he gets big and he gets loud. Like, how do you kind of like bounce that energy back and forth?
That's a great question. Shout out to my bro, Danny. Me and Danny taught a class in New Orleans together for Andis. And it's just one of those things. I know how to play to anybody's strengths and anybody's weakness. So I always ask, do you want me to lead or you want to lead? That's the first question. Because if you want to lead, then I'm going to let you lead. I'm going to be the best backup dancer that's out there possible. But if you need me to lead and carry, then I'm going to do that as well. And I'm going to chime you in when I know your strengths are there. And so that's how I do that. Like, Danny's going to give you more of the inspiration, more of that. So then that gives me the stage to do more of the haircut and more of the delivering the technique. So it's just understanding who you're on stage with. And that goes back to, like I said, why I want to reach out to companies and have reached out to companies about training their educators, because you got to know your team's personality. Everybody's a leader in their own right mind, but then when you come and bring them together, how do all these leaders learn how to play different roles? And going back to sports, if you want a championship, sometimes the star player got to pass the ball. Sometimes the leader might be the guy that's sitting on the bench. How do you bring them off the bench to allow them to lead? How? So it's like understanding the characteristics and the personalities that we're working with and identifying their strengths and only playing to their strengths when we're on this stage together. Because if you play to their weakness, then the other person look like an asshole. You know
And
what I mean?
nobody looks good there, and nobody.
Right. So you play to your team member's strength and allow them to shine in their moment, and then you shine in yours.
Mm, I love that, John. If people want to find the book or get in touch with you, or what's the deal?
So we're going to start rolling out some social stuff so that you could get easy access to the book. So I would say for everybody that don't follow me, please follow me at popular_nobody, and be looking out for that video leak of content. Um, where else? The website. We'll have it up on our website. Also, Vagaro. You'll be able to get it inside of my Vagaro, my site, or my Vagaro app, which is Popular Nobody in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. So it's going to be a lot of that.
Oh, wait a second. There's a Popular Nobody app.
Yeah, if you just go ahead and download Popular Nobody in your Apple Store, your Google Play Store, yeah, it's a Popular Nobody app, and we're pushing the brand even harder this year. So a lot of like my online classes will happen inside of there. A lot of my like the books. There it is right there. So,
Yeah, there it
you
is.
know,
Oh, there it is.
so a lot of that is going to happen in there, bringing it back to my own platform and doing what I like to do with it. But then also too, I have an online academy coming out on Teachable. So you'll be able to get this book in a video course where I'm getting more personal and showing you different things and talking it out through video as well.
John, listen. I'm gonna change the subject here, and sorry, we're gonna get off of kind of like this, but I'm so fascinated by you, and the way, and just the way you've branded yourself. You know, even your name being Popular Nobody is just this extraordinary like play on words, and then unteachable. I'm always fascinated by the way that you present yourself in that, and it's almost like it's this it's this confident, humble kind of thing, but it's not like this humble kind of look at me being humble. You know, I don't. It's really hard. I don't have the words for it or the verbiage for it, but man, everything you do, I go that just speaks to John. I know it's you. You know what I'm saying? Like through the branding. I'm just like I'm amazed by you and in that aspect and just the way that you've done your branding. And aside the fact that like all the stuff that you're doing and you're showing the industry how to do things, again bringing your platform to you, and even your what are your Andis clippers?
The Popular Nobody, they're the master, the envy, and the slimline.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you have your own clipper, through with Andis, or with this partnership of Andis, and you're selling those all yourself, right?
Yeah, that's 100% on me. I bought the clippers from Andis. I paid the artist to do so. All of them are custom hand painted, one of one. And so the artist, he paints them, and then we box them up. So I even designed the box that they come in. And I let the artist be Clark. He designed the clipper, but it was through like what I wanted to see. I knew I wanted a white clipper. I knew I wanted a gorilla on it, and I knew I wanted like a fluorescent orange to make it pop, because I seen the trend of colors starting to appear, like bright colors. And so I was like, let's do that. And so, taking ownership, man. I think a lot of people are not willing to invest in themselves. They don't believe in themselves, but they wait for a company to approach them about something and say, you know what, we want to do this. And it's like, no, I want to do this. And how can we make it happen? And the deal cost a lot of money, but I took a gamble. I bet on myself, and I was in a position financially to make it happen. So I took that gamble, and like, you only get one opportunity to be the first.
Mm.
And that's how I look at it.
I might steal that quote there, man. That might be the name of the podcast. You only get one opportunity to be the first. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's really cool, especially when you're, investing and selling in yourself. All right, Gab, as we wrap up, you got anything?
Yeah. Make sure you also check out John on Beauty Launchpad. He's done so much wonderful content with us that is like whether it's on our social media or it's on our website. He's written so many great pieces about, like elevating your craft as a hairstylist. He's done an artist spotlight where you get to learn a little bit more about him as a person. There was an event last year in Kansas City with Soul Salons that we covered. So there's just so much great stuff from John that's on our website that you should definitely make sure you check out too to continue to grow and elevate your education game. And I'm excited for 2025 and to get to see you again, John. I know at the trade shows and to get to watch you do what you do because you shine at it. And it's always such a joy to watch. And thank you for chatting with us. This was such a good conversation.
Thanks for having me. And for everybody listening, I appreciate your support. If you're new to me, come join the movement, man, the Popular Nobody movement. It might seem new to you, but you're gonna feel comfortable over there. And Corey, always, brother, thank you for reaching out. And when I seen that post go up, I was like, it's me. This is a perfect way to talk about my book without nobody knowing that it's coming. And so thank you for giving me the platform and the opportunity. And I always look to share the information and the knowledge that I attain so that I could give it out to our industry. Because, I don't care what nobody say. Our industry is a beautiful industry. And sometimes we just got to shine up the pennies a little bit.
That's it, man. I think you're right. That's it. Shiny pennies. Mr. Popular Nobody, John Mosley, Miss Gabby Bach, Beauty Launchpad. Thank you guys very, very much for joining us on your day off.